All right. So we'll have the honor to present Gary DiBianca, who is a Spanish teacher, presenter, world language consultant, and coach. He has presented nationally, regionally on acquisition and brain-based strategies in the world language classroom, big picture planning, and unit design. Um, Gary also is the one who wrote different stories for us, and he has helped make the Voces and the Spanish program great. So with that being said, thank you, Gary, for joining us. We really appreciate your contribution to Voces and our Spanish program.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much. Hi, everyone. Can you hear me? Yeah, good. All right. Excellent. So it's 7:03. I'll go to 7:53, and then I'll do questions. But I will take questions all the time in the chat, so I have that open. And it's like remembering how Zoom works and presenting, as we're not teaching on Zoom anymore. Thank goodness. But what does storytelling and story asking look like in my classroom? And that's what I wanted to bring us today. Because I know it's a hard year. I understand that. But I'm having like a creative year, which is a good thing. As I just mentioned, I've been writing a lot of stories for Voces, and I've been writing story scripts, and I have had a new revelation. I love it. I love writing the story script. So I hope when we talk through them, I wanted to share some of them with you that have been going really well in my classes. And maybe you can't use exactly what I'm saying today, but I'm hoping you can pick up some strategies based on it. And I'm going to do a mix of Spanish and English today, examples. So here's our quick agenda. I do cover a lot in 50 minutes always, but you could watch the recording again. I will share my slides. And just kind of how storytelling, story asking, and everything goes together. I teach Spanish 2 and 4 this year. My Spanish 4 is a 2 AP honors or pre-AP honors, and you'll see how this all comes together, I hope, for both of my classes. So, I was going to go into slideshow mode. I don't do this very often, but give me a second here. All right. So why storytelling and story asking, right? So this picture is really important because I gave my phone to students and I said, okay, you be the photographer. And they took a lot of pictures during the storytelling experience in my class. And those are genuine smiles. I don't get these smiles all of the time from my students, but they weren't posing for this picture. So for me, storytelling and story asking can be super, super engaging. It's really made a difference this year in all of my classes, especially my Spanish 4. And why I say my Spanish 4 is because we know if you've taught in level 4 out of the Nuestra Historia curriculum, although I love the curriculum, I love how it looks, there were not story scripts. And I always felt that was missing from my class. So I was so happy to write the story scripts this year. And now they've all been launched. So if you have the level 4, you can see them all. And every single one I have done with my students has been awesome. And they enjoy the experience. These are my juniors and seniors who are really, really stressed because of AP classes in college and all that fun stuff they're dealing with. And they get to have an amazing, fun time in my class, maybe once a week if I do it like that. You got to sell it. And we all tell stories in a different way. But, if you don't believe in it or it's something that's not working with you and your personality, okay, then maybe it won't work. But I do say that just following a script and putting some enthusiasm into it really can sell it for you. Timing it correctly by chunking. Yeah, I, like everyone else, have experienced maybe kids talking too much in a classroom or kids not wanting to focus. And I really do try to time things. So maybe I'm only doing a story ask for 15 minutes or 10 minutes, or I'm moving on to another activity and then I come back to this. it is part of that. And people might tell me, well, Gary, or ask me, Gary, do you do this all week long? Well, no, maybe I do it once a week or twice a week in a class. And then I build in so many other activities as we go through it. It's not just about asking questions. So here I am. If you've seen me before, or you've looked at some of my Voces videos, I talk a lot about asking questions. Yeah, it can be about asking questions. And that's how we try to train you to ask questions and get better at that. But it's not just about asking questions. You can simply tell stories without questions, and they're still going to get good comprehensible input, and that's going to help them acquire language. It's not about just them being able to communicate about it. Remember that. We always want our students to talk and communicate. I hear that all the time, but you just want them to be engaged in listening to it. And then, in time, as they develop their skills, they'll be able to communicate and talk about it. It's not just about them being able to write it either. This one plagues me a lot. Like, I'm like, oh, I want them to write it. I want them to write it. Well, they're able to write it. They're able to write it if I scaffold it and I put the right words on the board and the wall. So those are just 3 things that I know people leave workshops maybe hearing a lot about, and then it doesn't always go like that in your classroom, and that's okay. In time, it gets better. So let's talk about the difference between story asking and storytelling. So story asking, you can use a story script and it adds some information from students, or you provide them choices. You still tell the story. You can use questions and fill in the blanks. And we're going to see examples of this. And then, or you can connect structures and the language and your students' ideas, and you could just create stories on the fly. And I know you all think a lot of people do that, or really trained individuals do. Maybe some do. That's really overwhelming. That's overwhelming for me too. I don't generally do that. I use the story scripts. And I really do. And I'm going to show you, like, I have the scripts printed. I print them out. I hold them in my hand when I'm teaching. And I've been doing this for a long time. Now let's shift that to storytelling. I'm going to say story asking is a harder experience, a little bit more improv on your feet, although the scripts help. What is storytelling? Just tell the story. Like you're reading a book to a child. Tell the story. You don't have to engage. I mean, you could still engage with kids. That's always good. Like, asking them questions, or like, yeah, all right, there was a little pig, but was there a little pig or a wolf? Like, you can throw those questions in, but you're telling it. You're not trying to like build this new piece or story with your students. Use questions, use fill in the blanks, and any good storytelling or drama techniques are going to help you with that. Those are kind of the 2. I'll go through both of them today. So part of my practice is intentional comprehensible input. So I do this, and I called this, I don't know, I termed it for this new session, intentional comprehensible input. So if anyone else, I don't know if anyone else has ever said that before, but if not, there you go. I'm putting my mark on it, Gary DiBianca, right? Intentional comprehensible input. It's how I build my students' language by adding a variety of structures and timeframes. And I really think about that. I really think about like the tenses, transition words in our limited time, what I need to embed. I do this by using passwords of the week. My password always has relevance in some way to what I am doing. There's lots of like type in passwords, Bryce Hedstrom. You could watch his other Voces presentations about it. I seek and show patterns all of the time. I'm always trying to have my students find those patterns. That's how I teach grammar, right? They need to see that. They need to see spelling changes. They need to look for the ends of words, or if we're doing Russian, the different cases, or word direct objects, where that goes, they do need to see that. I have to help them see that. And that also goes into pop-up grammar and spelling explanations. Or I guess I just said that. All right. So I brought back one of my favorite stories to teach. So if you've heard me talk about Don Quixote before, I'm so sorry. But I haven't taught it in years. I haven't. And I brought it back in Spanish too this year. So this is not a Voces thing. I did it for about 2 weeks. And so it's like a 2-week unit in Spanish 2. It's how I start the past tenses. I'm calling this type of story describing characters right now, because you will always describe characters. It really is the fundamentals of all of our languages. And I will then turn this into an adventure action story. You kind of see some of the pictures there are adventure story. And then what else do I do with all of this? This is just a general, this is what my kids see every single day, right? It's what we're going to do. So I'm trying to show you the big picture. This was from February 6th. We did some weekend chat. So I taught them the week before this, I went to. They learned I went to and he went to. That's how I start the past tense, literally teaching them one word, I went to. And then they tell me, I went to Target, I went to Chipotle. Great. This week I brought in, I saw once and she saw once. I do a song with that. And then I started my Don Quixote story. I do a daily grade, like a participation grade, formative exit slip. All right. Intentional, comprehensible input. I intentionally chose these verbs. There was, the two Sarahs, or the Sarah to star, calling herself, lived in, was wearing, had, liked, and thought. I mean, for my Spanish teachers, I'm using all the imperfect there, but I'm going to be using imperfect and preterite at the same time. I threw some pictures of Don Quixote and Sancho Panza. I talk about this with my students, right? And I say, había un hombre. Había dos hombres, ¿no? El hombre aquí se llamaba Sancho Panza. Y el hombre aquí se llamaba Don Quixote. Su nombre no es Don. It is not Don Quixote. Don, anyone ever heard that? Yeah, it means like sir. We go through that. This is going to take me a week to do. Okay, I'm going to kind of show you. I build a little bit, 10 minutes a day, 15 minutes if I had time. You saw those other things I was doing in my class to round out my week. All right. And I was doing other things, of course, but here we go. This was in class. I was writing on my smartboard. All right, we have to learn the word armor and lance and helmet. Okay, and this is in the backwards design of my plan. I do have this in the present tense and past tense on my website, GaryDiBianca.com, in the resource sections. I added it tonight, so it's there for you. So here I was building this. Kids, all right, tell me sentences based on what we were just doing. And we're working together and they're telling me sentences. I consider this all storytelling. I'm not getting any information from them besides I am providing this. We're learning about this hero, famous from Latin American and Spanish culture. One of the most important novels, the top 10 novels in the world, right? That they never heard of before my class. So here, this just goes a little deeper, right? So, and again, that's just the same slide that I was doing. So all of this to build this context for them. We then read about it, okay? So I show them this, we read through this, ask questions, point to it. This might be on day 3 when they're finally ready for this reading. I bring maps in, we look at Spain. This is my second part. I always start adding a little bit more. When we look at input, C plus or I plus 1, you're adding a bit more. Then I go into the action sequence. So I've written this, the most, famous story of the windmills. I have it in English here. Again, if you want to go back and take a look at it for if I don't have Spanish speakers in here. And I'm just going to kind of go through this. There's our adventure story. We act it out. I bring the students up. I have a quick one. We're only going to watch about 1 minute if my video works. Please forgive my Spanish. I'm writing that here. This is the reality I live with. This sounds how it sounds. February 23rd, this is Spanish 2 students, a different class from the one you just saw, mostly 9th and 10th graders, although I have one 11th grader and one 12th grader in this class. Let's see if this works. Let's just watch like a minute. This was in my class. We had just done this story, but now we're doing a review of it. And let's just see, you'll see how they're using props. You're seeing how I'm using actors. I'm reminding them.
Había dos personajes. Había.
Can you hear it or no? David, can you hear it or?
Yes, we can hear it.
Okay, thanks.
Don Quixote. Don Quixote llevaba armadura, llevaba un yelmo. Tenía espada, tenía una lanza, tenía un escudo. Y tenía caballo o tenía burro. Caballo, tenía, muy bien, tenía caballo. ¿Dónde montaba caballo? ¿Dónde?
En la mancha.
Él montaba caballo en la mancha. Muy bien.
All right, that kind of went over just like that's all my review. Like, but again, we keep doing this over and over and they actually don't get bored. You just keep trying new things. They're learning. They're learning the past tense in a way that they have no idea they're learning, which is always fantastic. Here's the fight. Like we'll just see the fight. Oh my goodness. I have this super big whatever you call him. He's a big frog. So that's the giant. It's great. He's the windmill.
¿Va a atacar? ¿Va a atacar?
Gigante.
Con cuidado. You might still hurt. I have to be careful. No eyes, right?
That's me directing my students, right? So I direct them. Like you can't expect them to just do everything you want them to do. So I have to tell them.
Don Quixote empezó a montar. Empezó
Started.
a montar un poco más rápido. Y Don Quixote atacó al gigante.
Okay, I can't believe I showed you that, and that now is on video forever. Okay, so there you go. So that's just me in class with these students, and showing how I'm building kind of that action. That's all storytelling. Again, it's just me doing a story with that. That was a pretty small class. Do I push back from acting? I don't make kids act. So the kids that act, they all wanted to act and they wanted to be the actors. Don't make your kids act. Trying to see what else. That class is pretty small. So this is a class of 17. Okay, great. What else do I do? So here's an idea of adding rejoinders. Again, I'm having a creative year, so I feel that like I've had these ideas have been percolating for years, and finally, I don't know why, like it's the whole pandemic thing, right? We're kind of out, we're getting back into normal routine. My overwhelming stress is all back too, but I'm like, oh, let me try this and try this. So like I've had these cards sitting in my classroom for literally, I think 6 years. Okay, so this year now they're at their stations and the kids, they should be picking up rejoinders and using them throughout class. So like why it's better than sitting on my shelf. So now like the kids have them and they're using them, and then I'm hearing them coming up in class all the time. You could easily have a poster. There was something good about the tangible of them. Of course, you know, they start screwing around with them and they haven't ripped yet because they're laminated, but you know, these ones have seen better days. These ones I just brought these up from second semester. All right, expectations, set your expectations. I have a participation rubric. I was going to say it's modified from Bryce Hedstrom. And so if you go to Bryce's, so I can't like share mine because I've like taken his, but I've modified it, but you all can, you know, take a look. So there it is. Yeah, what he has. All right, so I wanted to bring that in there. So this is with the script. This is the simplest script, everyone. This is the I want script. So it's a simple format. Someone wants or needs something. You go and search of it to 3 possible places. They don't find it, or they maybe do find it. So I want to just, and you're going to write with me in the chat right now, because we're going to do a quick story. Here's this simple script, because this works every single level. You could just use different words. It does. It always will work forever with every grade. All right. There is a, so I'm going to give you, so this is an example of story asking. Now, pretend that's not there. Pretend just these words are here probably in the target language. This is my cheat sheet, my lesson plan. So we're going to go in the chat and we're going to build the story together really quickly, because remember, I will be out of time and I say a lot in 50, however long I have until 53. All right. There is a blank. Ooh, hey friends, tell me what there is. I don't care. Oh, you're a silent group. So then I would give you some options. A cat, a monkey, a man, a woman, a child. What do you think? Oh, Anna, a dinosaur. I like it. You've gone off of my script. Remember, this is the cheat sheet that I have. And if I couldn't handle that, which some of you can't, because it'll really throw you off, that's fine. We don't, like, they don't have to know what's on your script. You can always lie. You could always make the illusion. There's all ways around that. So if you know that you're going to get screwed up, like that dinosaur, I'm going to say, Anna, what a great idea. A dinosaur, maybe next time. Oh, someone else. Oh, a monkey. You're right. So guys, maybe in the back of my mind, there was a monkey, or in last period's class, there was a monkey, and it's fresh in my mind and I'm very stressed today. So I am just going to use the monkey. You make the illusion that they're telling you the answer. Ding, ding, ding. Story asking. Great. So now, ooh, what did that monkey need? Oh, he needed something. I already know my answer. Thank you. Thank you to one of my great friends, Anna. He wanted a dinosaur. There was a monkey and the monkey wanted a dinosaur. So creative and cool. Thank you, Anna. So the monkey, let's talk about how he moves. This is really good because you can bring in movement verbs all the time. So does he go just? Does he walk? Does he run? I hope you're seeing this one script could be like 10 different stories, 10 different weeks of the school year, and every one would be different, because one would be about jumping and the next week will be about swimming. And then we talk about lakes. And when we jump, we talk about mountains. And there you go. You have a whole curriculum in this one story. So, oh, he jumps. Oh, Elda, right. The monkey jumps. He jumps. Let's add some time. For how long? Hey, friends, for how long does he jump? Let's see. I'm going to take the first answer. Who's typing 1 month, Jeanette? Thank you. So for 1 month, oh my goodness, he walks. So he jumps for one month. It's perfect. Now, oh, so he has to jump somewhere now. Now the monkey jumps all the way to Target, friends. He does. He jumps all the way to Target. And at Target, is there a dinosaur? Sadly not. There is not a dinosaur at Target. Oh no. So he's got to jump somewhere else. Could somebody tell me in the chat, where else does he jump to? And again, you might already have some ideas in your mind. I threw out Target because you were such a quiet class. Oh, of course. He's going to go check Senor's favorite place, Starbucks, right? My favorite place, Starbucks. Of course he's going to go to Starbucks. So he jumps all the way to Starbucks. Stop. Do I have any student that wants to be an actor right now and be a monkey that's jumping? Oh no, you were too crazy yesterday. Absolutely not. Who else? You see, that's how I would get someone. What'd you say?
I can do it. I can be the crazy monkey jumping.
All right. So Lorena, excellent. So I'm not going to ever force her to be a monkey, but she just chose to be a monkey, right? So it was very, very clear what she was getting herself into. Exactly. So I'm building a story. This is an example of story asking. I promise it's just as easy as that. And frankly, your students need simple. They need as simple as that. So always remember that. Now, story scripts can be magical and some can be really corny. silly, ridiculous, dramatic, dull, or funny, right? They could be anything. And I think we always need to remember that sometimes mine are a little dull, right? So I'm continuing. I'm adding more language to meet the needs of all of my students. Well, this script is from the new middle school Spanish, soon to be released. So I wrote this script. I really like it. So I'm like, oh, I'll share it with you. So leveling up and down, I think I just kind of made that point where, you could take one script and do it in a different, but I'm like adding to it. You could make it a different tense. You could add these different words of movement. They could be slithering. That's how you level it up to a whole different like proficiency level. And your length of sentences too. You're going to see like in this one compared to one I'll share with you in a little bit. Staying in bounds. This is the tricky one. So with story asking, sometimes when we're working with students and being creative, you can just start making a story so big this way and like start throwing so much language that they don't know. And we have to be really careful with that. This takes lots and lots of practice to do. I will say, the story script always does help me stay in bounds also, which is positive. So in this one, so I wanted to remind you of those two ideas and points. And now, how did I write this script? Because I wrote that in the introduction that I was going to tell you how I write. So, okay, I'll do that. I was given these structures: buys, things that we need; for, as in, so para as a preposition; milk, how disgusting; and the bread. And when I was writing it, what did I think about? So this is just in case you want to write your own stories, which could be great. How do you connect it all, right? And this one is going to be in a unit about food. So then I kind of use that as an idea, like in the back of my mind. Okay, food. I think food is really important for all of our levels. I think if kids are allergic to things, they need to know those words too. I finally had that aha moment like 2 years ago. I was like, I've never thought of that. And that was in year 18. But now in year 20, we keep doing that. How do you use the structures multiple times? So how do I try to say these words as many times in a script as possible? And I still have to keep a script at about 20 sentences. I can't go over that, which is good for everyone. What other language is good to learn at their proficiency level? When I wrote the Spanish 4 ones, I wrote extra words. I know, because I'm extra like that. But there were extra structures that I know are difficult for Spanish 4 intermediate students. And then what have they previously seen? So all of these ideas are in my thought process when I'm doing a story. For the food, I went really extra. And so we're going to do like ask students which foods that we're going to use in the script, and you'll see the script in a second, should be on your shopping list. Okay, so this is a fun pre-activity. It's all comprehensible input. It requires me to write the words then on the board, which is good because then when we're telling the story or telling and asking the story, the words are going to be there so that I can keep them comprehensible. All right, this is a too much story. I promise you it is too much. It's in unit 5, so that means it's like midway through the year. So they have a decent amount of Spanish now. So I'll just throw that out there. So we need to buy or we don't need to buy. So we go through these. Hey, class, and kids are going to eat this up. Everyone loves this. Anytime we could talk about like food like this, they're all happy. Do we need milk? And then we write it in the yes column or the no column. Do we need bread, garlic, butter? And these are all words that I chose to incorporate into this script. Jellyfish, really? It keeps us all on our toes. It's actually very delicious. Oysters, do we need oysters, guys? Do we need fish? Do we need goat? All right, I said I went a little extra on this. Blood, do we need chicken blood? Some of those kids say absolutely. And then other people are like, absolutely not. So I would write this in the absolutely not. And again, I'm backwards planning because everything I'm doing in this activity helps the story. Blood of puerco or pig, I'm reading, and then bull's blood. I know. I'm sorry, friends. It's 7:32 and you're learning about blood, but hey. All right. Here's my very, very heavy story, but because I had to translate it, that's why it's going to look so big. So this is going to be a mix of story asking and storytelling. It always is like that. It is, at least in my world. Maybe yours is different. Today, there are so many people. Now I'm putting it here. My kids don't necessarily, they wouldn't see this right now. Okay, they wouldn't, because we'll read it maybe later. Maybe, I don't always read a story script. Because like with Voces, you know, they have that story later on. And I say Voces in nuestra story, in our story. So we'll read the other story. This is just for fun. So a lot of times they won't even see it, although I'll do an example in a little bit where they certainly do see it. So there's a guy who wants to eat the most disgusting, that was the word I had to use, the most disgusting food that he sees on Instagram. So he makes this food. Oh my goodness. So he decides to cook these meals. The boy tells his mom, here's a list of the things we need to buy. That was one of our structures. We need to buy. The mother reads the list and we go over the foods. Remember, I just wrote all these foods on the board. So I'm like, oh, butter, mantequilla, ajo. We just learned these words. That's why we did the pre-activity. Guess what? That pre-activity, that's like 10 minutes. And then this is 10 minutes or 15 minutes. It's two different activities. So they, you know, you could do a brain break, whatever. They don't think you're doing the same thing. It's a win-win. They are engaged. I'm not going to read this. I'm not going to read this. It's just, guess what? He makes 3 different types of foods. She goes shopping 3 different times. It's that three place model. We'll do the last one. The mother reads the list. This is for food number 3. The things we need to buy today are milk and bread. Those were my structures. Rice, very hot chilies. Corn, shrimp, snail, squid, some jellyfish. Oh, fun. Sausage. Oh, hey guys, sausage. Let's just work on this. Is it sausage of, here's how I do story asking. Is it chicken in Spanish? Pork, point to it. Rabbit. Maybe show them, or in my world, I have stuffed animals right behind me, so I pick up a rabbit. Oh, then you would tell me. David, can you tell me? I see that you're not on mute.
What am I telling you?
I don't know. Do you want chicken, pork, or rabbit sausage?
Rabbit.
Rabbit, excellent, right? Sausage of rabbit, guys. The meat of buffalo, monkey, or bull. I know. But we say one of them, and then the blood. I told you we're gonna do the blood. So the mom goes to the market, mom buys all these things. You know, we could have mom going shopping. This could be lots of fun. If your kids are really into it, this could take 20 minutes. Fantastic. This time everyone eats the food. Guys, every other time they all hated the foods, but the little boy did. But this, I should have put that out earlier. This time the food is delicious, but it's so spicy. So everyone is happy except the boy who's eating all this disgusting food. Yuck, he says, how disgusting. I don't like it. Everyone eats the food very happily, but the boy only eats the bread and drinks a lot of milk because the food is too spicy. Ha, ha, ha. Kind of corny, but it really does work. All right. Note for presentation, if I ever do this again, I really should read that he really liked it and everyone else said the food was disgusting, but he liked all the disgusting foods, but the kid couldn't handle the spicy food. There you go. Fun story script. All right, moving on. Level 4. All right, so how am I doing this in level 4? That was like more novice. And there was a lot of language there, I know, and I would have done a much better job teaching it, I promise. Now, this is, I've given you different story types. This is fables and legends. We all like a good fable or legend. You can use them from the target culture. They're awesome. I use actors. My Spanish 4 juniors, they just love to act. It's great. It's nice. This is an example of how I would actually use quotes from the story. And what I'm telling you right now is I need you to know how a silly fable like this, okay, goes into my bigger pre-AP picture. And I'm going to show you that. And I'll go quickly through it, but you can pause, but no, you're getting this presentation, so you can read every slide so thoroughly. Hint has to do with water. These are the structures that I had to teach. I don't even want to go over them now, but these are the structures that we teach in level 4 in this unit or in this story called Cada Gota, each drop. All right. I put this on my screen. Now, this is not the whole story. These are key elements from the story. I said before, I said, well, I don't show them all the words in the story script because then we'll read the story. Okay, sometimes, but sometimes, especially for my intermediates, I am going to put some of these words on the screen because I want them to see the language, because I love grammar. So I'm always doing it, right? I'm showing grammar all of the time, and this is what they're going to see. All right. Yeah, I mean, like sometimes I pre-teach with gestures. So I'm answering a question. Sorry, not everyone knows that. What do you like to do to pre-teach the vocabulary you want them to know before you start a story? I put it up in English. I gesture it. I show them it. I go over it. Maybe I'll play a game. In a Spanish 4 class like this, we would have maybe asked some questions about it, or played a quick game. So, I mean, I don't do anything like super special. It's just I try to do throw those things in as much as possible. Sometimes I just show them the words and then we move on and go through it. And they're learning the words as we're moving through the stories. So I'm telling a story. Like I have this script, and again, I don't have enough time to do this all right here. But, there's a kid who, and I'll tell you kind of in English, that he always opened the faucet. That's how you say it in Spanish. Like he opened the faucet while he was brushing his teeth, and he wastes tons of water. Right? He wastes tons of water. It's an expression. It's these words are all here. So, and the mom always would yell, right? Apúrate con el agua, cierra el grifo. Pero el niño nunca se fijaba en las recomendaciones de la mamá. Right? So I wanted them to actually see that. So I put that up there. Now I also have actors. So here's a little trick too. Sometimes I just hand my script to the actor. Sometimes I say this, blah, 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 blah. Sometimes, like for this lesson that I did a couple of weeks ago, I had this on the screen. So I just got to say, hey, read the screen and read that. Like for the character that was the mom. So she just said, apúrate con el agua, cierra el grifo. Oh, it was great. It was already on the screen. So I've done all of the above. I've done all of those. And I read more, and then I eventually come here. But this is a whole fable that the mom creates. Mom creates a monster that lives in the plumbing, that when he puts too much water, when he wastes too much water, this monster could come up and attack him. I know, I'm in a dark place right now, but so much fun. So we're acting this out, my juniors and seniors, and like teaching the structure, lo que sea, whatever, we're getting our subjunctive in. And you'll see, like when I wrote this, I thought a lot about subjunctive, because when I wrote all of these stories, I thought about my own classes and where I'm trying to get my AP students to. All right, so we're doing all that. And this is the language that, so I'm like showing you like, okay, these are the quotes that I pulled out, right? And then, yeah, you see maybe for my Spanish speaker, there's some subjunctive there and there's more advanced language. It's good because I want my kids to actually see this and work with it. All right, well, at the end, I'll just tell you the ending. It really didn't work in mom's favor because the kid just stopped showering and then he smelled pretty terrible. And then you could talk about how bad he smelled. And did he smell like garlic, onions, tennis shoes, all the fun things, Hey, it was a fun fable that we did. It's not a real fable, everyone. This is completely from my mind. And there you go. So how did I get all of this into my pre-AP Spanish 4 plan? There's a lot here, friends. This is like my whole quarter. So I'm just going to go quick. You have the slides. It's all about environment and how I brought everything together, starting with study abroad, all the way to wasting wasting water, and the monster fable, and then talking about the environment and the rainforest and the economy, bringing in lots of subjunctive, constantly bringing in current events, bringing in music. Okay, it's all there. Like, this is a bigger picture of how, you know, and then we eventually, so we did this on this day, we did the monster fable week 3, one day. Okay, it was a one-day activity. And then the second week, and we had like a day off. So then we eventually came back on Tuesday and we got to read the real story that's in our story, doing some songs, my passwords. I'm bringing in adverb clauses with past and present subjunctive. It's still all there and it's all intentionally embedded. And we end with a discussion day about environmental questions, and whole nother topic, but I wanted you to see how it all comes together, how this one fable, but without that fable, I think about like how class looked last year and the year before. We didn't have the fun with these stories. Not that the stories aren't good in our story level 4 book, but they're not fun. They're not fun. So this added fun to my class and really changed the whole dynamic, which is why I wanted to do a session like this right now. All right. Oh yeah, there was even more, but sometimes class is boring, we know. All right. So another type of story. So maybe you do like all the storytelling. So I kind of came up with a new, it's not mine, but I built them into like the level 4 situational contextual stories, right? It offers variety. You're always adding transition words, including some I can statements. So this one, and I wrote this and I'm sharing this with you because I think you could do this idea with any sort of information. So I started thinking through like when I was writing these stories and how I wrote them. And again, it was me just like trying new things. Have a person write a book. If your character is writing a book, they could write a book about any topic. There you go. Like, it's a simple story script that you can embed anywhere. So there's a counselor who wrote a book about some famous villains. I thought about villains. Great. We can all talk about villains. Oh, it's dark again. I didn't mean it, but there you go. I went villain. All right. So when talking about this the context with students, you can choose as many of the example villains as you would like. And of course, have your students come up with some of their own based on villains or characters they know or new ones that they might create. Fantastic. I had to use these structures that were in the Voces series. So, you know, we started talking about these villains, right? And the characters. And so if you have the R story, or just if you're not in like level 4 and you don't have this book, just email David for a like trial of it and then look at them. But the stepsisters, and they boasted, I had to use the word brag. So what did they boast about? And so then again, I did 5 examples for you. So we don't even have to think, yay. And then the answer, and they're in Spanish in your, in Voces. And then we always have been princesses because our clothes. So this is, why are you like this, villains? That's perfect. Why are you like this? So then they explain why they were like that. And then if they could change anything, like that's getting my hypothetical. So these kind of character analysis, it goes back to my character analysis of the description. You can do this with anything. And the questions don't have to be as complex as they are here, right? All right. Bad wolves, wicked witches, so much fun. All right. Still doing good on time. I see. Story script. So love stories. They're in a lot of all the series. Everyone has love stories. Okay. So here's what I want to say about love stories. I want you to always be your actors in directing, but be intentional. So we can be inclusive with our love stories. So in Spanish, in the 4 class, in both of my classes are all the classes I teach, the 2 levels. This was important for me to do very early in the year. So I made a story, but I didn't want to say like, oh, well, there's a boy and he has to like a girl. I gave the options in class to see what how that would turn out. And for me, this really builds the classroom community and culture, and that's important for me. So when doing this, what I want to tell you now is make sure you never put the kid in a position like that they have to be an actor, that is like they have to love a person of the same sex. And I'm not saying that you don't have that. You have it, you offer it, you make, if that's what where your class wants to go with this discussion. In one of the stories in level 4, it like helps the story move forward. So we established that, because I do a lot of stories that are going to be like that anyway, and a lot in the whole Voces series are in the whole our story are going to be written that way. Not a lot, but there's a couple in every level. So for that, I didn't make that get an actor first and then make that choice. We made that choice together. We established it, and then they got to choose to be the actor. And I find that that's really, really important, because you never want to put a kid in a position that might be questioning their sexual orientation, and then you make them be a certain sexual orientation, and vice versa for everyone. It just makes everyone uncomfortable. But when kids want to be that role, then it's all fun and great. So that's important, and it does help like my whole climate. And really, the one story that I used it was in series level 4. Like in unit 1, I think story 2 or 3 just went over so well with them. All right. I wrote about that. Oh, this was the slide to tell me what to tell you, but I already told you. There you go. All right. Some follow-ups to story asking or storytelling. I felt that I should just give you some follow-up ideas so that, even if you're like saying, oh, I didn't get much out of this, let me just give you a couple of these ideas. That's how I'll leave. I have 4 minutes. Okay. And then I said, I'll do questions. So read a version of the story with your students. So sometimes I just put it up there and read it, especially the real story, right? And you read it with them, you do your pop-up grammar, like you point out things, you help them see the patterns, as I already established. You could have students draw the story, draw aspects of it, They love just drawing on dry erase boards. I don't do it enough, but they love it. I'm reminding myself now, right? If I do that next week, I'm going to make so many kids happy. So Gary, do it next week. I'll write a note. Do a comprehension quiz, or tell me the meaning, like on an exit slip. I do more of these first quarter than anything, because it establishes the routine, makes my expectations really known, and then I like wean off. And then I really started good again in semester 2 in the beginning. And now I'm already back to not doing as many like these formative exit slips. They're great. They tell me some things. It holds them accountable. Oh, I'm going to knock on some wood here. My kids have been pretty good, so I haven't done as many of them. And I don't just do it as a punishment, but I do it as a way for accountability's sake. Okay. Retell the story to a partner, a parent, a whole group. I love doing whole group retells, like give me a sentence. And that's really great for my level 2s, because, they're novice, high, in the intermediate, low, and the whole intermediate world. Write and discuss. Other people have talked a lot about it. Write and discuss, read and discuss, have students copy what you say. You have to look up other workshops on how to do that, but I'm giving you that idea. Write the elements of the story on the board, and then the students write them. I tell you, this whole concept, oh, you're all great now, right? Well, I think they're great now when I go over it like over and over and over, like that Don Quixote 2-week story. We did it so much that then they become really comfortable. But sometimes if I just want them to write after we do one retell of it, if I don't have a lot of structures on the board for them to read, I can't expect them all to be successful. Take pictures and retell the story, having students fill in the blanks. They love seeing themselves in those pictures. Some extra, this is your extra slide, extra storytelling and asking help. Use their favorite movie plots, your favorite movie plots, your favorite plays and your stories and your fairy tales and fables, and there shouldn't be an extra comma there. So use those, that tricks them, change the names. It's all fantastic. You can make a story within a story. Kind of like the character analysis. Use cube dice, or there's online dice that they like give you a story, and that's just to generate some ideas for you. You don't have to do that if you ever need new story ideas. Props. I have so many props and so many stuffed animals all throughout my room. So they help me. They bring inspiration for the students and for me. Think of all the language you hope to teach all year. I think this is important. Prior knowledge that you want to recycle, and just keep embedding that. I often, if I don't know, most of you teach with maybe Our Story, so you don't have a vocabulary list you have to teach. But even from the Our Story one, I would print out all of those words that the structures were supposed to do, so that I keep looking at them and have them in my classroom. You know, there's a lot to this. This maybe takes you to a different level depending on where you are with teaching for acquisition, but it's always there. Some resources that are free. I have my last minute. I have 6 free story scripts with questions that are already done for you. They're in English, and that's at GaryDiBianca.com, my resource section. 55 problems for stories if you ever need a problem. Don Quixote in the past and present. I just added that tonight for you. And I will be happy to take any questions, and I am out of time. So thank you so much. I hope you got something. David or Lorena, did I miss any questions? Do you know?
Let me see.
No, we made a point of
I
kind
don't
of
think you did.
posting all of them.
All right.
I'm sharing your website, Gary, so
Thank you
people
so
can
much.
visit your website.
Perfect. And as you know, I already said, I think in the post, I hope everyone, you know, if you're going to be at conferences this summer, the CI Summit, let's like grow together in that CI Summit. It's going to be amazing.
Yes, we're going to be sharing the link to the CA Summit, but we have some really nice comments about your presentation, Gary.
I'm like looking at the top, so let me look. So thanks.
Yes. So Alicia Hines says the class stories do bring so much fun, engagement, and one second. And ownership at the upper levels. It is important to spark joy in our students as they continue to
I have a
acquire.
question for you, Gary. So when you do story asking, right? Once in a while I do it, and sometimes like the kids, and I teach middle school, and they get super excited, but they're all like shouting over each other and stuff. So what kind of expectations do you put in place so you can, because you want that sort of like spark, right? But you also have to try to regulate it so you can stay in control. So how do you balance that when you're doing this?
Yeah, it's a great question. What I would really, you know, you use every tool because you don't want to squash them. If you have dry erase boards, like, all right, everyone write down one answer and then show it to me without saying anything because I need a minute. Or it's all right, I'm going to take an answer from this side of the room. I cannot hear anyone else, or you're going to hear my boring story. So please, it will just be the worst story you've ever heard, but I want it to be from you all. So I don't know, I would kind of play that game as I build that expectation within my class. I don't know if that helps. Or yeah, today I'm taking just from this side of the room, and it's kind of like that balance you find with them. Yep, the slides will be shared. It is daunting. Yeah, it is a daunting experience, the story asking. So I just keep it simple. And if you're like, most scripts that, I mean, in Spanish at least, that have been written, like, and I review, like, if you're using level 1 and 2, I've reviewed all of those a couple of years ago and changed them up a bit. They're not my scripts, but we really, we only tried to give you like 3 variables per script or something, so it's not as overwhelming. And don't feel like I promise, this is not a lie, like I print them just like this, and this is what I have. And of course, the third time I do it in a day, it's much better because I know my storyline. But in the first, second class, I mean, that's all they get. Like, literally, they get me reading. And that's all it has to be. And you don't have to be like the Don Quixote one, because I know that one so well. And that was the third time I Actually, that was the first time I did it. But I mean, I've done it for many years and taught that. So I did stand up and was really involved. But there's some days I'm just sitting in my chair too, talking to kids and doing stories. It really depends how I feel. Good. I'm seeing if there's any other questions. Yeah, so the link for the slides, Aaron has it, but let me give it to you right now.
Yeah, David just shared it on the chat.
Oh, did he?
Yes, he did. So everyone is welcome to enjoy your presentation with your slides, and the recording will be ready within the next few days. So you will receive a link with the recording and also a link to the slides.
Perfect. All right, well, thank you, everyone. And if you ever need anything on my, I don't know, I lost but my email is right. Well, you can find me through my website, but then Gary, so it's just gary.dibianca@gmail.com. Have a great rest of the school year. Make it through. It's March. I know it's like, that crazy time. If you made it through, we made it through February, which I love to always remember. So thanks everyone. Have a wonderful rest of the time. Enjoy the rest of this spring conference. And then I throw it to you, David and Lorena.
Thank you so much, Gary. It's been a
Thank you.
pleasure having you here. I'm sure everyone really enjoyed and learned a lot of strategies and things that they can implement right away tomorrow if they want to in their classes. So we just don't want to miss this opportunity to invite you again to the CI Summit, where you will also see amazing speakers like Gary DiBianca, and we would like for you to make it to Savannah. And if you can make it, we also have our virtual version. So please join us and we'll see you there. Thank you so much for coming today. We'll see you tomorrow again on day 3 of our conference.